Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Faizan Ali. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Hospitality and Tourism Management, MoMA College of Business, University of South Florida. First of all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on whatever time zone you are in. I know that some people normally join us from China and other Asian countries, so it's early morning there. And then some of our audiences from Europe, so it's a bit of late night. So today, as part of my marketing class, normally I invite industry speakers from renowned organizations who can come and talk to our audience, to my students, to other people about marketing concepts from industry's perspective. As part of it, today we have an amazing speaker with us, Miss Christine Turner from Chapel Roberts, and she is the Executive Vice President, looks over marketing and everything. So she is with us today. I'll have her on the screen momentarily, and she will be talking about marketing and the importance of marketing mix from her perspective. So let me bring Christine to the screen. Hello, Christine.
Hi, Dr. Ali. How are you?
I am good. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for accepting my invitation and welcome to USF, even though it's virtual, but we welcome you.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you so much. Okay, Christine, so because of time issues, we'll go directly into this. I am going to let you take the center stage and then you are good to go.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. It's evening where I am. I want to say I'm so glad to be here tonight. And I'm excited to talk about anything relating to marketing and advertising with you all. The nature of the presentation lends itself to questions at the end. But Dr. Ali can stop me anytime if something pops up that you want me to go back to. So that's how we'll move forward today. Happy to spend some time with you and talk about the increasing importance of the marketing mix. So what you see on the screen here, you'll recognize these logos, and you'll likely have even some evoking emotions about some of these big brands, some of the best brands, the biggest brands around the globe: Amazon, Disney, Nike, Tesla. And what these brands have in common is that they're constantly adjusting their marketing mix. They're constantly, in some cases, even redefining how they enter a category based on the 4 Ps of the marketing mix. So these are brands that we aspire to be, brands that are always engaging and coming back to that product, price, place, and promotion. So when you think about that, why do they do that? It's because advertising is an aspirational reflection of society. Advertising evokes emotion. Advertising makes you want to be closer to a product and a brand. And how we measure that marketing mix is changing based on consumer desire, customer journey. And that's why those brands, while product, price, place, and promotion might still be the core, are always changing how they're interacting with those. So before I get too far into my talk with you tonight, of course, you're going to want to know a little bit about me. Who am I? Why am I talking to you tonight? What gives me the expertise to be here? And I'll share that with you. I am a principal, as Dr. Ali said, and executive vice president at Chapel Roberts. We are an ad agency located in Tampa, Florida. I have been with the agency and been in advertising and branding for over 22 years. I am a proud graduate of USF. Go Bulls. Externally, when it comes to my role with the agency, I focus on public relations, marketing, advertising, branding, digital strategy, video production, and events. These are things that I can do externally and with my clients. Internally, what I focus on behalf of the agency is new business acquisition. Where's our next great client coming from? When are we going to land a piece of Disney business? Client relations, community engagement. I'm a mentor. I'm a manager. I'm a leader. I'm a culture promoter, and I'm a team builder. These are all things that I love about my job, internally and externally. Some things that I take on outside of the agency is serving on the board of the USF Alumni Association, one of my most exciting and rewarding community involvements. I'm also a board member on the Tampa Downtown Partnership. I'm a board member of the Tampa Bay Chamber, and we're also engaged with Women in Leadership and Philanthropy, which is a program of USF as well. It's important for you to know all about me. So here is a picture of my husband and my 2 girls. I am a working mom and wife. I am also a marathon runner, and I ran my first marathon last year, 2020, the Disney Marathon over in Orlando, 26.2. And believe it or not, I still wanted to do another one. So it was quite exciting. And do you really know anybody these days if you don't know what their favorite streaming content program is on Netflix? Take one guess what mine is. Hopefully everybody recognizes this to be Schitt's Creek. Hysterical. My favorite thing that I've engaged Netflix with and streamed. Okay, enough about me. We'll get into the agency. So an agency overview, like I said, this is Chapel Roberts. We are located in the historic area of Tampa called Ybor City. And when we were meeting in person and gathering in person, we've invested a lot in our culture. The great thing about an agency that you might have heard or you may have experienced yourself is the culture. It is fun. It's exciting. It thrives on energy. We do things to create inspiration, like have coffee keg on tap. We have an open office environment so people can really work together quite often. We get out of the office for fun engagements, and we do cool things like go on photo shoots and video shoots and get to engage with real consumers of our clients' products. And when I talk about the agency team, you'll see some of us here. Oh, there's more of us. And here's a few more of us. We are experts. We are nearly 40 people, but experts in various fields. What you see represented on this screen are not just strategists and not just PR executives, but everybody. We really do every discipline and have experts from digital to research strategy to planning to social media to video content to web promotion, social media, and the likes, paid media. So we have project managers. We have a host of experts inside of our agency that allow us to do everything a fully integrated agency would need to do. So our agency was founded in 1978. We are over 40 years old, which has been a great learning experience for us as a business because it shows that we've been able to evolve with the times, to continue to expand our capabilities and our service offerings to still be relevant as quickly as marketing and advertising and branding changes. We've got 37 full-time employees. Is something that we like to talk about is that we have 3 times the average employee and client tenure. And that means that we really do take this advocacy on part of our team and advocacy on part of our clients. We really become their partners, an extension of their team, quite literally. And we think that sets us up for long-term success. And what you'll also see about us is that we're not just a niche agency. We're not just a brand specialty house. We're not just an agency that works in automotive. We have a very, very diverse client roster across corporate and nonprofit. Here is a sample of some of the brands that we've worked with. We've got healthcare, nonprofit, financial services, real estate, food and packaging. We've got cancer specialists. We've got hospitality and tourism attractions. So we've got a host, and this is just sort of a current snap of our client roster. We really do have a very, very extensive portfolio and expertise in a wide range of categories. So our skills as an agency really are branding, integrated marketing, research and analytics, media, web and mobile development. We have a video and content studio, social media, and public relations. We have 4 core parts of our agency. We've got the account team, the creative team, the paid media team, and operations. Each of these departments, while working very, very collaboratively with each other, has a specific role as it relates to the overall product and output that we work on. Some samples of our work. We launched last year a campaign for the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay that focused on first responder suicide. 9 out of 10, the number is very high, of first responders are more likely to die by suicide than in the line of duty. And we took it upon ourselves to offer this campaign to the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay so that we could try to put an end to this terrible, terrible social issue. Well, you do work in healthcare. Advent Health is a national healthcare operation, and we focus locally here on their demand services for specific units like their Heart Institute, their emergency room. We've also worked with Newland Communities, which is a master plan community, and they have a host of brands underneath them in that real estate category. And we work on everything to drive their sales, brand their different communities, and create sales collateral to help them engage the buyer. We have also launched a major brand launch for Feeding Tampa Bay. And this was really to focus on everything that they're doing to address food insecurity in our community in an 8-county region. And DTCC is a global financial service organization. They do everything for the post-trade services in that financial services sector. And they are becoming more and more important player in the financial services market. They used to operate sort of behind the scenes as they settled the transactions, but have in the past decade really made more of a move to that forefront and has becoming incredibly important to everybody to understand what they do, even though they're very B2B focused. And we have launched in 2020 a new brand for them that's been very well received, very dynamic, very engaging. And lastly, Florida Cancer Specialist is a oncology organization that they provide oncology services into communities so that people have access to treatment and care no matter where they are, and they don't always have to travel to a large market to receive their care. And our campaign really focused on being with those patients every step of the way, because it's more than just about that chemo treatment. There's a very holistic approach to oncology that Florida Cancer Specialist takes with their patients. So when we talk about what we do, we really have 4 phases. The discover phase is where we do the research and we garner all the insights it takes to get into our marketing programs. In phase 2, we define it, which is really looking at that research, distilling it, and organizing things to determine what the opportunity is for a product, for a brand, for an organization. Phase 3 is where we develop the content, we develop the campaigns, we develop the messaging, we develop the spots, we develop the plans. And then in phase 4 is where we deploy it. It's where you'll see everything that goes into a campaign come to you in your homes, whether that's through your streaming content, over the radio, in the nightly news as you're listening to commercials, or getting served to you as you're scrolling through Facebook or LinkedIn. And all this centers on finding that big idea, finding that opportunity for our clients and our brands that we're working with. And how does this relate to marketing mix in modern times? There's a very direct connection into advertising and branding and this marketing mix that many of our clients take in and launch as they're figuring out their go-to market plans. I find marketing mix to be very, very critical in modern times. I'm going to go ahead and say that outright, because when we look at the modern mix, although it was defined and really sort of looked at in 1950, it doesn't mean that it's out of relevant, that it's not relevant anymore. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's anything other than old. It is also still very, very important, the marketing mix. But let's talk a little bit about that. Originally, it was defined as product, price, place, promotion. There were 4 Ps. The product. What is your thing? What is your widget? What is your thing that you're bringing to a consumer, to a household, to a person to meet a need? Price. What is it that you're going to value and determine that value? The place. Where is it that you sell your thing? And promotion. How do I engage? How are you going to engage me? Whether that's back in the 1950s through the yellow pages, or now as I'm scrolling through my content in Instagram and Facebook. And all these things you can see are still very relevant. Although over time, people have added to it. All of a sudden, now there's 5 Ps, somebody said. Okay, so we've got product, price, place, promotion. And somebody said, no, there's 5 Ps, and that's people. Okay, I can get down with that. Oh, now there's 7 Ps, product, price, place, promotion, physical evidence, processes, productivity, people. And that makes a lot of good sense too. The people, you don't have a product, you don't have a brand without your employees that sell it, without your employees that believe in it and support it. What is the physical evidence that you even have a brand or a product? You know, where is your logo? Where is your website? These things also very important in the marketing mix. What are your processes? You can imagine that a company like Amazon looks at their processes as part of their mix very closely. What is that customer journey? How does the delivery go? Productivity and quality. Are we being efficient in order to make money? That's also another very important P. So there are additional P's that have been added to these 4 tenets over the course of the years. But we really go back and say that those 4 P's, product, price, place, and promotion, are really the tenets, the principles of the marketing mix. And you couldn't build on that if you weren't getting those correctly. You couldn't think through these others that have come and gone and been added on by different companies if those core 4 weren't addressed and weren't created in the right way, didn't have a great integration. So we want to talk a little bit about the internal implications that even come to defining these 4 Ps. What is the company mix of products and where are they in their life cycle? You know, this is important as you're thinking about your go-to-market strategy. What have you already got on the table? How are you going to introduce something new? Where are you going to put it? Money. Is there anything in business that money isn't an implication or a factor around? How much are you going to invest in it? Where are you going to find the money to find the place to create the engagement? And what is the company's overall business objective? You've always got to know the goal. And here's a nice, day after Super Bowl analogy for you. But where's that goal line? Where's the end zone? Where are you throwing to? If you don't know the organization's business objective, then you are going to be creating your synergy between these 4 places without that definition, without that box that they need to go in so that you can meet your objectives and know where your metrics will be. There's external implications around the marketing mix too. What is the competitive market? How saturated is it? Who's the category leader? How do I compete? How do I position? Is this the right investment for an organization or company to make? Next, what is the appetite of the consumers? What are they looking for? Where are you going to meet them in their journey? Are you going to create something new? Are you going to create something better? What is the value that you're going to entice around your product or service to these consumers that you're trying to engage with? And lastly, how are we going to launch it? What is the external implication there? How are you going to find your place? How are you going to find your promotion in a sea of competition? And in several categories, hyper competition, technology, healthcare, financial services, all categories with hyper competition. So when you get your marketing mix correct, you get synergy. And what is synergy? Synergy is 1 + 1 is greater than 2. It means that these things that come together, the marketing mix, have this magical value that's created that's actually greater than just 1 + 1 = 2. And that's the synergy you're looking for, where everything adds up to create a great value, a great deliverable for your business, for your product, that's greater than just that separate initiative. So now we're thinking about, why is synergy important? Why is synergy important? Synergy gives you that value that allows you to get impressions. Impressions means that you're in front of somebody, that somebody is interested, that somebody sees that product, that business. And when you get impressions, you get awareness. Not only am I seeing it, now I have a knowledge about it. I'm becoming a little bit more educated about it. I have an awareness of what this product could have value to me, what it could deliver, why I might need something. When you have awareness, now your consumer is starting to engage. Now you're starting to get somebody that's clicking on your ads, somebody that's visiting your website, somebody that's watching your videos and learning more about your product, comparing it to what they already have, reading the reviews, that you're getting this engagement that every seller wants. When you get engagement, you're getting your consumer, your target audience, to take action, to think through, like I said, not just looking at the reviews, and when you get engagement, you've got a hot lead. When you've got a hot lead, it's up to you to keep hitting that lead so that it turns into action. Because when you have action, then you get a customer. Somebody is moved to engage with you, to buy your product, to subscribe to your service, to download an article. So you've got a customer now. And synergy, and these integrations of synergy equal positioning. And positioning is so important because now you've found your path, you found your lane. You are engaging with people and a product in a way that makes it distinctively different, that gives you your own lane to say, I'm better than Toyota, I'm better than Nike. Where are we headed? And when you've got great positioning, you've got great brand loyalty. And great brand loyalty means you're buying that product not just once, likely twice. How many people are on their third, fourth iPhone? I'm on 12 right now. They keep getting more expensive, and somehow I keep buying it because it is the best thing. I've got an emotional connection and a brand loyalty to the Apple phone, and I will probably buy it until the end of time. Same goes with cars. How many people just go and buy the next version? They drive their Honda for 12 years, over 200,000 miles, and when they get there, then they go get another one. Brand loyalty is so critical to the brands that we're working with, these top brands. People that not only feel a product has value, but they're emotionally connected to it as well. So when we talk about brand loyalty, we want to always remember that a brand is the most valuable piece of real estate in the world, a corner of someone's mind. And that's not a quote by me. It's true, but it's a quote by this gentleman named John Hegarty. And that's what we strive for in the advertising agency. And what I can bring you here tonight when we're talking about those 4 Ps really is that these things, the 4 Ps, when you get it right, create synergy. When you have that synergy right, then it allows you to position effectively. When you're positioned effectively, you've got a great brand. You go back to my slide number 2, where you can be a brand amongst the kings and queens of branding, those huge iconic brands that speak so truthfully. Even just a logo creates that emotional connection. And you've got a corner of people's mind, and that's the most valuable real estate. And that's what I have for you all tonight on the is marketing mix still relevant? And I'm happy to take questions, and I'll let Dr. Ali tell me if I should quit sharing my screen or go back to something else.
Thank you very much, Christine. Interesting recap of quite a few marketing concepts. And I really like that you put all of them together to give us a very interesting perspective on marketing. So we have couple of good questions, and then probably both you and I can do some discussion on these questions and see where it is going, right? So the first question that we got was this one. It says, in modern hospitality and tourism industry, don't you think people is part of the product? And I think it refers to those 4 Ps and 5 Ps and 7 Ps, and when you were explaining that, right? So how would you answer this question?
I do. I fully agree. I think that, again, those 4 are the tenets, but I agree. Here's things that our clients are speaking about with a lot of passion, and that is the people. And because culture and purpose-driven marketing and branding are very big right now, because a brand now is called to, you can see from the Super Bowl commercials last night, you know, they're being called to do more than just fill a need. From a service perspective, they want to stand for something. They want you to believe in something, and people want to be aligned with your values. So when that's what the external audience is facing, your internal audience, that P for people is critical. Even for our own brand, our own agency, we focus very much on culture, because we do need to be connected to the people, and we couldn't do what we did if people weren't aligned with the organization's values and our guiding principles.
Okay. This is perfect. So while we are on these Ps, right, 4 Ps and 7 Ps of marketing, we have another very interesting question. Probably it's a comment, but it says that during this pandemic period, partnership may be another P that can be added to the existing Ps of marketing mix. Do you have any observation, any comment on this one?
Yep. Well, I think, you know, we've worked with local zoos, local museums, and partnership, I think, for certain industries has always been very critical. You know, and I agree with that. There's a lot of sharing of best practices. And I think that your industry, as far as hospitality and tourism, is very friendly. You're competitive, but here locally, you know, you'll find the CEOs of a lot of these different venues to be quite friendly with each other and sharing, and partnership is something that they do well. There's a month in September where you can swap, and anybody with a pass to this venue, this tourism place, you know, a museum, let's say, can go to the different museum in town, so that they are sharing experiences and they're not. But I do agree. I think partnership is very important part of the Ps.
Right. And Christine, you did mention the industry, hospitality and tourism industry. So one interesting fact about hospitality and tourism industry is synergy, what you were talking earlier about synergy, right? And traditionally, even from revenue management perspective, we have had several players in the industry that are working together. So, for instance, in hotels, what happens is that they have partnerships with even competing brands. And sometimes when there's a game or something happening in the city or at a destination, and one hotel is completely booked out, then they work with other hotels to, divert some sales over there. So those type of things happen. But now we see that during this pandemic, this type of stuff is happening much more, especially with airlines where the demand is already very low. They are trying to create some sort of synergy for creating that win-win situation for multiple players in the industry. So just wanted to bring that there. You did also mention about loyalty and iPhone, and that you are on iPhone 12. Well, I'm a bit less loyal than you. I'm still at iPhone XR. So we have another good observation, which is that once we had Nokia and BlackBerry, they are now history. However, they had a lot of loyal customers. So what do you think happened with them?
I think that the product happened to them. They failed to, evolve and innovate at the speed of Apple. And not only that, then they lost that emotional connection too. So not only does Apple innovate, they create something really beautiful that makes you feel emotionally connected to it too. BlackBerry, oh my gosh, like, would you not get laughed at now if somebody saw you tap on that big old keyboard? They didn't innovate their product as fast as Apple did. And I think that was the cadence that Steve Jobs set. And I don't think any other competitor in town could keep up with that. So that's why it's that synergy of the mix, right? Because you can't just have a value or create a service. You've got to continually innovate. And I think that, solving somebody's need before they know they need it is when we say it's advertising is this reflection of society, advertising when it's successful makes you want something you didn't even know you needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is a very interesting observation, and I say this even in my own classes that smart marketers actually develop needs that people even do not feel that they needed. In fact, last night I saw an advertisement of Taco Bell having some sort of chips new item just because of Super Bowl, and I had to go and buy it. So I do practice that as well. Christine, tell me this. You work with an agency, right? So you guys are more like consultants. So you work with brands to reach them to the target audience or to customer base or whatnot. How many times do you feel that brands also do not know what the customers need? So because you are the middleman, right? You provide that consultancy. So do you feel that sometimes brands are also confused whether what do they want to offer to the customer?
I do think so. Well, I think the biggest confusion that we as an agency kind of come in is what brands define themselves at. Oftentimes, they might shoot too high, or they might actually, in some cases, shoot too low. And so the agency really gets involved in helping them with that positioning. We were working with a client, I'll give you an example, in healthcare years ago. And we were going through some sort of branding and positioning, and their branding was going to say, we're so different. Our value is that we care. We care so much. We care more. We want to focus what we do around how much we care. And when we tested that and brought in their target audiences, the target audience says, that does not resonate with me at all, because you are in healthcare. Caring is baseline. Like, I expected to go up several notches from there. Conversely, we worked with another tech company, this was a service provider, and they said, our brand positioning is really going to be in that innovative lane. The innovative lane, we're innovative. And then we met with their customer audience, and they said, we don't want you to be innovative. That's not what we need from you. We need you to provide this service, be our counselor, and we'll go get innovation from, this core network of providers. We don't look to you for innovation. We look to you for some of that, the status quo and the intelligence and the services that keep our business running on the day-to-day business. So I think that, where companies kind of defined what their audience needs are is definitely, and how they fit into that is something that you have to use. And that's where that research, I can't say, we say every strategic anything strategic that we do starts with research, because it can't otherwise, you could be so off course.
So very well answered, Christine. To your answer, there's a relevant question here, and I think it's more of an observation. Siddhant says that some marketers say there's another P called purple cow, which refers to something unique. And if these days you provide something really personalized, it can be a purple cow. I don't know if you have heard of this purple cow before. Um, have you heard of a purple cow before?
I have not heard of purple cow.
Okay, so now we know purple cow. But you were saying earlier that, sometimes brands, they target something completely different, or they target pretty high and all that stuff, right? So it resonates again in travel and tourism, right? So the interesting thing, I'll give you a very interesting case study. Spirit Airlines, right? So Spirit Airlines, it's one of those companies that have the highest number of dissatisfied customers, based on the social media analytics and stuff, where people put tweets and all that. However, they're also one of the most successful companies in budget airline sector, right? And the fact that when you dissect those comments that people put on social media, or the dissatisfaction reports and all that, many people actually comment saying that, oh, I had to pay for my seat selection, I had to pay for this, I had to pay for that. Whereas the loyal customers say that, well, I knew what I was getting into, like buying a ticket third the price of the normal airline. I knew what I was getting into. So my question to you is this: working with several brands, do you think sometimes this type of a confusion also exists, where probably the brands do not realize what their customers exactly want, or what is their exact target market?
Yes, I agree. I do think that, it's amazing how, people will come to us and say, we have problems. We know we have problems. And we say, what's your research tell you? And they say, that's good. That's a good question. We haven't done research in 10 years. We haven't done research in 15 years. Why not? Because the 3 executives that own the company, have just been figuring this out, and they've been lucky enough to be successful, but now they're hitting roadblocks and they don't know what to do. But research is really usually where we turn, because it really just defines that problem for you. But so I agree. And that's an interesting case study you shared about Spirit Airlines. And it reminds me of, people knowing their lane, and not everybody can be Southwest. Southwest is good because they're, the leader in that category, and everybody really sort of needs to define that for themselves. They've defined their service based on, personality and fun and ease. And I think, to your point, Spirit serves a very distinctive purpose. People know what they're getting. They're not out there trying to act like you get a lot of fun and you get, they're very authentic to who they are. So their reviews and data coming back really shouldn't be a surprise.
Perfect. Christine, I have one question related to research, because you did mention research a couple of times. John says you mentioned the importance of research. How can small companies do this? Do you have to have a big research department to do market research?
No, I don't think you do. I think small companies, can do it very easily. We have service member organizations, and it depends on what you offer. But if you attend an event, a webinar, a quick survey afterwards could be a very cheap and effective way to get feedback based on that. And then you'll know, was this an effective thing? Was this an effective topic? Research, analytics. I mean, Google Analytics are free to almost anybody. You can start seeing what's of interest if you've got several product offerings, or, how things might be engaged. Almost everything gives you the analytics, and that's just part of setting that up. So I think there's a lot you can do. Digital research is often very cost effective, as digital has made a lot of things very cost effective. So not everything is, let's bring in a focus group of 100, feed them dinner, rent the facility, give them the stipend that they get for coming in. And in fact, now with the coronavirus, we can't do research like that anymore anyway. So I think with most things, you can find a way to, evolve and conduct some research. Not everything might be quantifiable, but you might have some real good qualitative feedback there that just gives you some insights and some direction.
Perfect. I like it. I really like it how you took this question. I agree. I mean, research is different types, right? So if you are a huge firm, of course, you have bigger market segments, bigger consumer segments, and then you have all that investment. If you're a small firm, you can certainly do that. And these days, I think pretty much every single platform provides you analytics. Like even if you are running cheap ads on Facebook, you still get really detailed analytics, which you can look into who is clicking on what and all that stuff. So there's another related question, Christine, to this digital marketing. It says, what do you think of online marketing versus traditional marketing? Is online marketing become mainstream?
You know what's so funny is years ago, people used to define digital as new media, new media, new media. And there was a time that our agency said we did advertising, marketing, digital, public relations. And we were looking at this and thinking, it's not digital. Marketing is marketing, and I think it's the same thing with the media mix too, is it's all part of your media mix versus the marketing mix. It's all very important. It's one of my favorite. If you ever need a follow-up discussion on, the importance of the media mix, we can do that too, because you'll find that many don't go all in on just one. Many have, sort of a mix of that too. And it depends on how you want to reach. If you've got various audiences, you definitely want to keep your media mix punchy and evolving as well. Digital certainly is a very, very cost-effective way of meeting people, of engaging with people. But you've got eyeballs on the out of home as well, and a well-placed billboard. The newspaper really still is read. We've got a lot of healthcare especially, that invest heavily in what you would call, and I think define as, traditional media. And if you've ever driven I-4, I know that many of you might be international, but we have a big highway from one major market in Florida to another. And when you drive that, almost every single billboard is either healthcare or tourism, because you're heading to Disney World or SeaWorld or Animal Kingdom. And when we try to buy some of those, it's very hard to get in line, because they've got contract and backup contract and backup contract. So when you think about how much people still rely on their cars, and that's actually still pretty heavy, even in the pandemic, these well-placed billboards and digital billboards are really still very, very important. And I will say, when we've had hospitality and tourism, those billboards are essential to, the hotels and the cultural places like museums and theme parks and whatnot. I'm not sure if everybody in this class has sort of one specific industry, but in that, tourism and hospitality, we've often lumped that kind of together, and those billboards and traditional are very critical, as is the digital.
Perfect. So, Christine, I have another case to share with you. And again, it's because you did mention about this online and digital and new media and old media and all that stuff. So we have a very good friend. He is an entrepreneur, runs several restaurants here in Tampa Bay, Sarasota area. And then John Horn, I don't know if you know him or not. John Horn, he runs Anna Maria Oyster Bar. I invited him to my class, and to my surprise, I mean, normally, because many people by default think that these days everything is online and digital marketing and social media and all that. And luckily, he was kind enough to share his marketing budget with my students and everybody in the class. And we saw that quite a major chunk of his, actually, the majority of his advertising budget was going to newspapers. And one of my students asked him, like, how come in this day and age you are spending so much money on newspaper? And so the really interesting observation is, if you go to any of his restaurants, most of the people are 50 plus, 60 plus, and Sarasota, basically that's demographic that we have here. And the answer was the same, that most of the people who come to my restaurant, they are people who normally wake up in the morning, pick up their newspaper, sit in front of their home, read the newspaper, and then it's 11, then they prepare for lunch. So why not send them a coupon or a good advertisement in the newspaper so that they can come and drive to eat? So I think that's a very good observation, that you have to understand who your customers are, who your consumer base is, and what do they use. Okay, we have a couple of other questions. I think we can take them, and then we will wind up this session. Okay. So one other question that we have is interesting question. You mentioned loyalty is about buying from the same vendor. How about attitudinal loyalty? Is that important for brands? If yes, how much?
Attitudinal loyalty. Tell me a little bit about what you're meaning there. My feelings, is that about perception?
I think so, yes. So from research perspective, normally, and I'll wait for this person, Guzde, to answer this in the comments. But I think from research perspective, attitudinal loyalty simply means a positive perception, a positive attitude towards some brand. Or let's say if you are thinking about, let's say, eating out, and then the first thing comes to your head, that sort of thing is attitudinal loyalty.
Yeah, yes, okay, I'm following you. So I do think it is so important, and I think that's what, when we look at how the 4 Ps expanded to the 7 Ps and even the 8 Ps, a lot of that was built on experience or attitudinal, and that sort of intangible experience that you have with the brand. Is how does it make you feel, and what is the takeaway? Because a very important part of the marketing and the media mix would be, or the media mix, I would say, is word of mouth referral. And so when you give somebody an experience that they are so moved by that they would actually bring it up in a conversation, share that, tell a friend, post something positive, because we all know, like you mentioned, spirit and the negative. And it's first thing anybody does when they're mad is go complain online and tell all their friends. And it's your happy customers and your happy engagements that people take away, and they love it, and that's what brings them back. But to get them to actually take action and post or refer is a very, very valuable thing for a brand. So I do find that to be another aspect of what we're talking about and what we're thinking about with branding and brand loyalty, that is very important for the brands and the organizations and companies.
Perfect. So, again, I'll share one of my own experiences with you very quick, which is related. So I recently did a research, Christine. In this research, we looked at some very interesting phenomena. Maybe you might have seen on social media, several brands changed their logos during COVID. So McDonald's changed the logo, the split between the M. Burger King, they were not national campaigns, right? So McDonald's happened in Brazil, and then in Turkey, Burger King changed. So several campaigns, but limited geographical. But because of social media, they all went out viral. So we did a research on uh, looking at how people react to it, because my understanding is that consumers, normally companies, what they do is they market their products based on needs and wants. Many times companies ignore people's other attitudes, maybe religious beliefs, maybe political affiliations, maybe something like that. So in this particular case, I wanted to see if people's political stance on social distancing would make any difference on how they look at the brand. So social distancing or wearing mask is a political issue now in the US, right? So you have a big chunk of people, they don't like it. There's a big chunk of people, they like it. So I wanted to see how that impacts people's reaction to the brand change or branding. And it was interesting. So we saw that some people who were really right wing, who were very strict with social distancing, didn't like it at all. They started hating the brands for doing something like that. Whereas the people who were pro social distancing, they started defending brands for something like this. So, in your experience as a marketing consultant, right, somebody who consults brands on marketing, is it very common where brands really ignore the general attitudes and focus too much on the need, product specific need? How is your experience about all this?
And your question was, do brands want to change for the political climate?
Yeah, so the question is, like, when brands are thinking of creating advertising or marketing campaigns or whatnot, right? Is it often they think of other things like other general attitudes of consumers, or do they always stick to product specific needs and wants?
Um, our clients are usually more product. What you see with these big national brands, though, I think is more of a movement to what you're explaining. I think people are wanting to hear how they what they stand for and what they believe. And then I feel that, even some of their politically, people are saying we need help. And, look at what Nike's done for the social injustice, right? And they had a campaign that featured Kaepernick, and everybody thought they're shooting themselves in the foot. I'll never buy Nike again. Guess what? Sales went through the roof because the people that didn't like it were not their target audience. The people that loved it, their target audience, more brand loyalty, more satisfaction with the brand, saying, I can feel proud to spend however much, it's a lot of money, on these shoes and wear them because they stand for something. And that also is probably part of the previous question, some of that attitudinal loyalty too, that says, yeah, I might have just spent $200, but I feel proud working with Nike. I feel proud that I can work with a brand that stands up for social injustice, that stands up for, the fundamental rights of everybody that Colin Kaepernick is supporting too. So I think that my personal experience is that some of our brands really focus still more on the product or service. But when it comes to these big brands and these big, huge consumer brands, they really are being called to do something. And even though the chatter might be a little bit negative, I think that it will be interesting to see what the actual sales align with, because we've seen a case study on that Nike Colin Kaepernick. And it really worked. It worked for them. And that's what research told them. Research told them, even if your C-level executives thought this is really scary, they had the research to say, trust me, this will work. This is what is aligned with the beliefs and values of our core segment.
It's very true. So, and it's not always even positive. Like sometimes it can take you really down, right? United's example is there where they punched one doctor to get him off the plane. And that was like such a disaster for them. Within 48 hours, everything like sort of their share prices, stock, everything went down, right? So I mean, we at USF recently did a report I can share with you, Christine, after this session, on which we asked more than 1,500 consumers in the US, what do they want of brands? And the answers are pretty cool. I mean, they don't want brands only to brag about the brand itself or what do they offer, but also to take stance on, social issues or maybe somewhat political issues, but mainly about social issues, like you mentioned about Nike's case, right? So pretty interesting. We have one or two more questions, Christine, and then I promise we will. So because all of a sudden now the questions started coming in because of this discussion.
Well,
so.
Dr. Ali, and if anybody's on too, last night was the Super Bowl. And again, I know that we're talking, across many regions and countries here, but the Super Bowl is always in advertising the biggest night. It's the time where all eyeballs are on TV. The people pay for those commercials because they are reaching the audiences. And if you haven't seen it yet, you can go look at Jeep's commercial called Reunited Together. And that is a brand that really did what Dr. Ali was talking about very, very well. And they had a product in there, but their conversation was about the state of America. And it was very hopeful and aspirational, but very political and addressing the political times in our country. And yet they really struck the right chord with not being too self-serving. And then there were others on last night, very self-serving and just not resonating with people. But the Jeep one, if you want to take a look at that, it's probably online anywhere. Jeep Super Bowl ad.
I was going to ask you about that. I mean, that was something I was thinking. Honestly, when I watched like the way that ad started and halfway, I was thinking like there's somebody going to say that this ad is paid by some political party, because normally it started like that. And then all towards the end, then they mentioned Jeep. So even till the end, I was not sure what is this about, right? But you're right. The message was beautiful. It was on point. It was related to what's happening around us. But then, it was pretty interesting. What an interesting ad, like literally very interesting ad in a long time.
I agree.
So let's look into this couple of questions very quick. I think we did mention about attitudinal loyalty, so I'm not going to take this question, but this question seems pretty interesting. I think we can keep it as our last question. What are the future trends in marketing field? Any thoughts about virtual reality, augmented reality?
Well, you've definitely hit on two of the big ones. And especially, I tell you, what's done more for those virtual and VR is the pandemic. So we have a client that is a luxury condo, and they are trying to sell these luxury condos without the benefit of people visiting in person, because they have an older target market. The condos are very expensive, $1 million plus. They're serving a lot of segments that are out of state, out of market. And we're planning on using, virtual reality and augmented reality to build experiences for these people to engage with this, because how many people drop $1 million sight unseen? Not too many. So as it comes to, real estate, as it comes to home decor, experiences like that, I think you're going to continue to find that augmented reality and virtual reality to be even more important. IKEA has been doing it for a long time already. And it's worked for them, but I think that they're kind of ahead. And yes, those things will continue to be very important, because people are very focused on that experience and, that emotional connection, and finding ways to do that on a deeper level without travel, without coming into places, is going to continue to drive that next trend.
Great. So, Christine, while we are at technology, right, I have one question of my own. And like I said, that was the last question. But, this discussion is just so beautiful. I I love marketing, so I normally want to talk about it all the time. About this technology, right? So, as a consultant, when you are working with different brands, so right, over the last 24 months or so, there's been a lot of chatter in the US, Europe, other places about privacy, about data privacy, data, and all this stuff, right? And now with Apple, with the new upgrade, they are closing down a lot of cookies and stuff like this So how do you guys work with it? So when brands approach you and say, let's do this advertising campaign where you need data from the consumers, right? Their own data of browsing or whatnot. Do you guys take care of it as a consultant, taking permissions and all this, or do brands have to do it? How do you work around those laws and regulations and all that?
So we advise, but we do not want to be legal counselors in any shape or form. So we are very, very abreast of the changes, and even ad blocker first, and now the cookies and the GDPR. We're very aware of these issues that affect the brands we work with. And we, for our contacts, say, we know this is changing. You need to think through your strategy here and this and that. So we advise them, but we don't take that ownership, because we can't be liable. We can't serve as in the frame reference of some of these things being very big legal ramifications. So we can only advise there. But it is something that we've kept our eyes on. We just wrote a blog recently that is on our website about a cookieless future and some implications on that.
Okay, perfect. And so, Christine, we are almost done. I want to ask one observation from you, okay? And this is also tied into one question that came earlier. So these days, when I turn on radio or social media, or not so much of a TV, but banner ads on YouTube and whatnot, they all talk about COVID-19. So every advertisement that we look at, it's somehow related to COVID-19, right? What do you think of it? I mean, is it a good idea for brands and everybody to keep, hitting the same nail again and again, again and again? Or do you think it's time for people to move on and think of something else?
I do. I agree. And we were on the news last summer, so March, about St. Patrick's Day, March 17th would have been about the time that everybody really got shut down last year. And by May, I think we were on the news talking about how people were already sick of the commercials that started out with, in these unprecedented times, we really have to move past that. And I think people find that to be disturbing. That being said, coronavirus still does have a very high implication. Our consumer research is coming back telling us that people very much are making choices based on how confident they feel going out. And a lot of that is still not so much, depending on that segment, especially the older the older segments really still are not traveling out much to do anything beyond, maybe pick up a grocery. They're not seeing friends and family. So I think people are trying to understand that they're trying to meet people where they are in their comfort zone. But I do find it to be that we can't talk about COVID-19 as just being a certain time anymore. We have to understand that this is now sort of normal as we head into a year. And with the amount of people that have not been vaccinated, we still have a lot of room to go. So we should just start talking about our interaction with people as our new normal and finding a way to make them feel comfortable and engage with them. And then I think we also next have to understand that COVID-19 is going to have a big impact on consumer engagement moving forward. So I don't think everything is just going to roar back. I do think trends and engagement will change because people long for the old days. But I do think in some instances it's going to change consumer behavior, and people are going to like the experiences that they're having now with grocery restaurants and technology, and how this is saved and changed as a result. Telemedicine, for example. There was a statistic the other day that said a local hospital, I don't know, it was a story that we were seeing that they had 3 years set to roll out their new telemedicine delivery. And the COVID-19 forced them to roll it out in 8 weeks. So they had a 3-year plan that got condensed to 8 weeks. And guess what? They were successful because this is that new normal that has put that pressure on people to change their service delivery with such intensity. And these things are just, some of this stuff's just going to stay. And that's going to be the brand new way to, engage your healthcare segment.
Yeah, I think it's across industries. Like we see the same thing in higher education. It's the same thing where I know that several people in the finance industry are saying the same, where they can, many organizations have literally asked their employees to work from home, which is now becoming something new, right? And becoming normal. Anyways, thank you so very much, Christine. I just want to tell you something in the end, that several people in the comments, they said hi to you from different parts of the world. So you got some hellos from Malaysia, from Philippines, from Turkey, from Cyprus. That's why I in the start said good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So
yes.
Yeah, so thank you so much once again for being part of this lecture today. I really appreciate it, and it was good knowing about you and about Chapel Roberts. Thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Ali, and thank you everybody for your participation. It was the highlight of my week so far, so thank you very much.
Thank you. You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.